I was talking to someone earlier today, somewhere around here, and they wanted to teach people internet marketing, right? But they're not great at it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so my first answer was like, that's probably not a good idea. But if you were going to do it anyway, and you wanted to be successful, then you're never going to compete with me, right? Like I've accomplished too many things, I've done too many things, but you can carve out an area where you're a better choice than I am.
Yeah. Hello and welcome to another edition of the Business Owner Elevation Podcast. It's Leon Street in the house and I'm alongside my good friend Mr. Rich Schefren. Now, guys, I can't even begin to explain the kind of heroism that's going on right now because I'm sat next to a legend in my world and yours, guys. And fortunately, I had the pleasure of listening to Rich for the very first time a couple of days ago, and we were at Todd Brown's MFA live event. And Rich is a really good friend of Todd's, and he laid down some real content the other day that just blew me away. And if I'm honest, it was part of the reason why I came here. It was to hear Rich, it was to hear Clayton. And fortunately, the day before the event started, we had a planning day with Todd. So honestly, it kind of just added the cherry on the top of the cake for me. And I wanted to get straight stuck into really bringing Rich on the show for you guys to understand who he is, what he's done, because whether you know him, whether you don't, he's done some phenomenal things that for small business owners in the times of our greatest needs, this guy's done many times over. So first of all, Rich, I'd just like to get you just to give us a quick bio of where you're from and some of the things that you've done so people understand who you are.
Okay, so I was born in New York, went to school in Ohio, studied accounting. Had some successful businesses offline. First one was in the clothing business, then the music business, then the hypnosis business, and I did well in all those businesses. And then after the hypnosis business was done, that's when I first got online. Yeah. And when I first got online, I really struggled a lot. I didn't take all the principles I knew from business online. I actually thought like I could, be on the beach checking my email like an hour a day and somehow get wealthy, and that never happened. And so then I kind of figured that out and kind of then became successful by just following the same plan, process, or way of kind of operating that I did offline. And when I saw how well that worked, then I decided I wanted to teach others how to do that, or try to teach others how to do that. And so then I coached a small group. That small group did extremely well. A lot of them became gurus and stuff like that. So that's kind of what started the process of me getting known. Then I wrote a free report called the Internet Business Manifesto. I did that because I was hoping to get a few clients in a small window of time, not knowing that it would go viral. It did go viral. Yeah. Kind of turned me from unknown to very well known in my little space. Yeah. And then after that success, I then, did another 6 or 7 reports within 18 months, and that basically birthed a whole business. I mean, the first report birthed the business, but the next 6 or 7 basically cemented it in place, and to this day, we still get lots of buyers from the original report I wrote, 10 plus years ago, the Internet Business Manifesto, and the successful reports as well. And in those reports, some of them have been, they've all been marketing reports, but they've all been to help people see things in a way that I think will help them. But in addition to helping them, it'll also see where my product kind of fits in. Yeah. I'm also known for other types of reports that I write for my clients, and those reports are like, when our company first figured out an automated webinar. So in 2008, I wrote a report about explaining how to do an automated webinar and how to use it, and that structure still is what most people follow today. So, I don't know what else you want me to tell you.
No, that's cool. That's cool. I think he's broken it down, guys, and like I said, one of the things for me is and why I pay attention to what you've done and wanting to actually come and meet him. And fortunately, I've met him a couple of times over the weekend, and it was on purpose. This guy's a strategic thinker, and I thought, a lot of people, they talk about the tactics. Right. Jump on Facebook, jump on AdWords, and the one thing that I know that absolutely works above all else is getting the right strategy. And you're known as a real key strategic thinker. Yeah. And I suppose my first question is, everybody else is probably asking the same, how do you do it multiple times in so many different markets?
Okay. Well, the first thing is just, if you're going to be strategic, the first thing is to be very clear about what your outcome is. Yeah. Right? What are you trying to accomplish? And then what resources do you have at your disposal? Because, I like to think about strategy as how do you get the most from the least, right? So, what's the best outcome I can get from these limited resources I have?
Yeah.
And so in order to do that, you have to know where you're going, like what's the outcome. So like an easy example, like in the clothing business, right? Like I had this store, it was called the Antique Boutique, became one of the most popular stores in New York. And we were very clear, like in most stores you go into, you walk in and someone says, can I help you? And most of the times people say no. Even if you want help, you say no because that's your natural inclination. So we wouldn't do that. What we did was something totally different. We had like our salespeople go up to customers and or people that were coming into the store and say, they'd usually have clothing on their arm because that's customers feel more protected if the person looks like they're busy. And then they would say, have you ever been here before? And if the person said no, then now the salesperson could tell them all the special things that make up this store because the store was truly unique. And if they had been there before, when was the last time you were here? Let me tell you what's new. Why we were doing this is because we were trying to sell people on the store before they bought any clothes. Because the end goal of a transaction in our store was that we wanted to have a new customer who came in frequently. So we were clear about that up front. So we weren't trying to make the sale first. What we were trying to do is sell them on the store, what makes it unique, what makes it special, why they're special by shopping here, and then what clothes you're looking for today, right? So it's just kind of clear, like right from the gate, like what are we trying to accomplish? Because when you're not clear, then how do you know what you're supposed to do? I'd say also that to put it to like coaches specifically, my thought about
you
being
had
strategic.
You have a coaching program, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I mean, that's been my bread and butter, right? Like that original coaching program that I did for those 25, I did it one more time, for about 200 people.
Wow.
Privately, right? So I coached them all individually and also created this content, but used the content from that original coaching program. And then that became the business growth system back in 2006.
Wow.
And to this day, we still sell it. And we sell it in an automated way, and we deliver it in an automated way. So,
leverage.
people are buying the program to this day, every day, and then after they buy it, they go in, they get the content dripped to them, and then every week I do a Q&A call. So, and I've been doing that Q&A call for like 14 years now. Yeah, it's live. So there's that's the only thing that I do for that program that's been going on for 14 years or 12, 13 years. And yet, so it's automated selling, automated delivery. So, it's like it's pretty fantastic.
Good leverage.
And being strategic as a coach is trying to figure out who's your market. More so than I think anything else. It's about who are you really the best choice in the world for, right? Like, 'cause you hopefully are the best choice in the world for some group of people, and you have to kind of get clear on that first, because the alternative is that you're hoping to find idiots who don't choose their best option, which is not a good idea for customers, right? Like you're not. So what is it that you can be the best in the world in? And some people think like that gets really scary really fast, like how, me the best in the world in something, but everyone can be. And it's like, I was talking to someone earlier today somewhere around here, and they wanted to teach people internet marketing, right? But they're not great at it. Okay, so my first answer was like, that's probably not a good idea. But if you were going to do it anyway, and you wanted to be successful, then you're never going to compete with me, right? Like I've accomplished too many things, I've done too many things, but you can carve out an area where you're a better choice than I am, right? So what I told him was, look, you could make the case that Schefren, sure, he's successful and he does really well. Today he can press a button, send an email, and he can make a lot of money. You can't do that, I can't do that. So, when he tells you to do stuff, he's seeing it that way. Me, on the other hand, I just built my list yesterday, right? So I know what works today. Schefren knows what worked 12 years ago, right? So you have to kind of figure out, where do you exist? And back in like 2008, Gary Vaynerchuk did a seminar of mine, and he participated in helping me create a product. And when he was on stage in 2008, he said, like, I don't care if you live at home, you hate people, and you only wear green socks. The internet is huge. You can find other people who live at home, wear green socks, and hate people, and you could be their leader, right? The world is a huge place, so you can be the best choice for some group of people, and that just, the way I like to describe that in a bigger context, is that relevancy has replaced proximity. So we used to make all our purchase decisions basically like who was close to us. If I wanted, if I got into boxing and I wanted a pair of boxing gloves, I'm going to some store locally to find a pair of boxing gloves. That doesn't happen anymore,
now,
right? Like now, I go online, and who am I going to choose? Well, if there was an online store for 46-year-olds who've never boxed before, who would like to start boxing now, and these are the best gloves for that person, well, then I'm going to buy from there, right? Because that'd be weirdly relevant, right? So, but who are you going to be the best choice for? That's first and foremost probably the most important thing, because if you are clear that you're the best, it gets conveyed in your attitude, right? Like,
absolutely.
and if you don't feel like you're the best, you're always selling from your heels, right? Like, because you know that like these people could make a choice that's better than me. So that's where I'd say it starts.
Yeah. There's some real nuances in his language that he used, guys, and it's really interesting just to pay attention to what you're saying, even in this short moment, Rich. And one of the things that I really wanted to dial into about this approach is that, I mean, there's people out there, and you've kind of made it real clear. It's like how for instance, and I believe this partly comes down to confidence, and one of the key things I took away from what you were talking about the other day was these 16 different desires, and like how you dial in your market and really getting to the roots of what they're after. And for me, it was just like, that's it. Because whenever I'm dealing with a client or a customer, or somebody's asking for advice, I'm always like, well, you've got to start at the strategic level and really dial into who this market is that Rich is talking about. But even with that said, you're a very confident guy, right? Yeah, you've got
just about business.
Yeah, you're a very confident guy. I like the way he carries himself around the room as well. He speaks to everybody and he gives time to people, and that's why we're doing this interview, guys. How does somebody though target something like 7 figures but plan for it? Because you're talking about targeting the right people, but how did you even conceive your first 7 figures? Did you stumble across it? Did it happen that way intentionally?
Well, let's see. I'd say the fashion business and the music business are kind of totally different.
I agree.
Right?
I was a DJ for 11 years and produced music for 10, so I get
it's
that.
Totally different. More image than like anything else.
Yeah.
I'd say so the hypnosis business was probably the first direct response business that I grew to. Like, it was on track to do about, I think, like 14 million in 2001, and then 9/11 happened, so we didn't hit that number. I think we hit like 9 million or something like that. And that was all about, some of it is relevant to what was going on today in the room, and that is that first I rented this office, I built this clinic, but we didn't even build out the whole clinic, even though we rented this big place. We only we closed the doors of all the other rooms because we didn't renovate those, and we just had like 2 rooms in the lobby done. Because we wanted to figure out, can we get customers? And that's where I found direct response, because back from my fashion and music days, like image style advertising didn't work at all to make the phone ring. And so the worse I liked the ad, the more I hated it, the better it did, right? Like, from that stand. And so I knew I had to learn a lot. And so I started learning copywriting somewhat. Hired a lot of the guys that are now legends. But back then, Jay Abraham, Bob Bly, like, I hired these guys to write copy for me and do other stuff. But what it came down to is that we developed a process over time that allowed us to know that any person walking in our door, not walking in our door, any person that called our office was worth $500 to us.
Cool.
Right? Like, because based on some percentage of them would book an appointment to come in, some percentage of them would show up, some percentage of them some very high percentage, once they came in and showed up, would buy, and the average ticket was like $1,400 or $1,800. So like the math worked out. So therefore, all I had to do was look at, it wasn't $500 to call, it was $500 for an appointment.
Okay.
So not whether they showed up for the appointment, because then that made it, if they showed up, it was much higher.
I get you.
But and so now I had this like way of, but we closed, I hope people follow, we closed 90% of the people that called on the phone. So like most of the people that called book
And
appointment.
that's about right.
Right?
Good.
So- because, well, they're making an appointment for a free
Exactly.
appointment.
They're getting you. They're chasing you.
Right. But they might not show up. Like, it's easy to make an appointment. In New York, like,
Yeah.
people are busy, they might not show up.
Yeah.
And we always struggled with that. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I knew that basically anytime the phone rang, it was worth $500. It wasn't because, like, 90%, so it might be worth $450.
Yeah.
But then I could look at, now my job then, when it came to advertising, was to find as many places as I could get the phone to ring
Yeah.
for less than $500 a call. So if I could look at an ad, any magazine, any newspaper, any radio, I advertised on Howard Stern, I advertised like on all these kinds of things, but it was all about like, okay, this ad is going to cost me $10,000,
Yeah.
right? Okay, so $10,000, I need to get at least 20 calls
Yeah.
from this thing. Do I believe I can get 20 calls, right? Because I knew that if I could get 20 calls or more, I'm going to make money on that.
So
I'm going to
you
get
know
the
the
customers,
numbers.
right?
Yeah.
And so then it's all about all these. What are all the ways that I can get people to kind of into the process for that amount of money or less,
Yeah.
right? And so it's really easy to scale once you know those things. And as a coach, it's really easy to scale, especially if you kind of lay out your programs in a way where there's not a huge tax on you to deliver, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people I've coached who've gone through business growth system. It's, I don't know if it's 100,000 or it's close to that number, who have actually been coached by me. But 90% of the experience for them is going to be the same as everyone else's experience.
Yeah.
The reason I show up every week on the phone is because, for the 10% that person needs that's specific to them, I still want to make sure they get it.
Yeah.
But I don't want to. I want to run my business and I want to grow my business, and I don't think I'm the world's best coach, but I do think I'm the best choice for a coach.
Yeah.
If you're an online entrepreneur and you really are stuck, or you're trying to grow, or you want to scale, then I am your best choice, right?
Awesome. I love the explanation. So, Rich, what's the thing that fuels you? What's keeping you going now for the next 5, 10, however many years that you're doing what you do as an entrepreneur?
I just follow what my interests. That's really that's why I've switched so many industries.
Yeah.
I might do it again. It's really about I'm a very undisciplined person, right? But I was listening to this podcast the other day, Joe Rogan, right?
Yeah.
And Joe Rogan says the same thing. He's like, people think I'm all disciplined, but I'm not. I can't get myself to do stuff I don't want to do. I just happen to choose the things that I really want to do, right?
Yeah.
And that's the same with me. The stuff that I every business I've been in has been a business that the stuff that I needed to do for that business, I would have been doing anyway,
Awesome.
right? So if I'm teaching growing your business online, well, that's because I'm fascinated by that. And so because I'm fascinated by that, I can consume all the information about that and think about it. But I don't feel like I'm working.
I get you.
Right? I hate to sell from the stage.
Yeah.
Right? I'll do it occasionally because it's good for my business, and it's also I can return a favor or something like that. But that is something I don't enjoy, right? So if my business was based on that, I wouldn't be in the business, right?
Right.
Because I just don't like it. So I try and create the business to allow me to explore whatever, to be built in a way that I can be who I am.
Yeah.
And the business can succeed. And I would just add to that because I think it's valuable. I tell entrepreneurs that their goal when being strategic is to figure out how they can be successful in their business without them changing at all, right?
Wow.
So if you're a procrastinator or you're a perfectionist or you're flaky, whatever, then you might want to have the goal of not being that way, right?
Yeah.
But you don't want to put your business success, you don't want to hinge it on whether you personally
Make the change.
right?
Yeah.
So I'm not money focused. I've never been money focused. Well, that's not true. I'm money focused when I don't have enough money, right? But that's about it. Once I have enough, and my enough number is not huge, then I'm happy and I'm not really thinking about money. But to grow a company, someone's got to be thinking about money,
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
So what I can do is, instead of me trying to change, I instead instituted profit sharing in my company so that and made it significant enough that everyone else in my company is focused on the money, so I don't have to, right? I'm a perfectionist and I am a procrastinator, and so all the programs that I ever developed, I did live. Because I could, if the thought was to create a program and then go out and sell it, the program would never get done, right? So I call this outfoxing your flaws. Whatever problems you have, you have to figure out a way to be successful with those. Because if you put the goal of personal change in front of your business success, the likelihood of that business success just went way down, and you've added other goals that you've put in front of that goal.
Yeah.
So I'm still a procrastinator. I'm still like a perfectionist at times, and I can be flaky too. But I figured out ways that the business, like I'm never going to finish a presentation 3 days before. It's always going to be finished the day of, and that's just the way it is for me.
I'm glad he said that because I'm the same way.
but I don't make any.
Yeah.
I don't like that about myself. I really don't. I really wish I could get it done way early, but I can't.
Yeah.
So if I'm either going to ruin 3 weeks by trying to get myself every day to do it and then beat myself up, or just appreciate that this is who I am.
Yeah.
And okay, so I'm going to enjoy the next 3 weeks because I'm going to have 2 days of hell, like right before the presentation, and that's just who I am, right? but the idea that I'm going to be something different, I think is dangerous.
Yeah.
And I think like your whole business success then relies on you personally changing, and most people don't change, so it's just not a great idea.
That's awesome. I mean, Rich just said, I think this is valuable. And to be fair, what you've just broken down is not valuable, it's profound, because a lot of people don't touch on what Rich is just talking about, having a business with your flaws and knowing that it's not hinged on that in terms of the success. And for me, that's it.
It's very liberating.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone on my team knows these are my characteristics, so like we have to plan around it.
Like I said, Rich, I mean, what you've just broken down there for me is the key, because the more I dial into people like you, and I speak to people, it's the raw human stuff. It's not like some wizardry. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's a lot of people who are successful because of a tactic, and that happens. It's just the way of the world. But when you find a set of skills that become something you can repeat over and over, that's what I'm seeing, the correlation in the terms of what you're talking about.
And it's also recognizing that nobody is really, like, nobody's got it figured out. There's nobody that's got it all figured out. There's a lot of people who figured out a way to make it work.
Yeah.
But that's it. They're no better. Everyone wakes up the same.
Awesome. So I kind of want to wrap up here.
Right.
Rich, if the listeners that are watching right now, Elevation Nation, that's who I refer to my community. If there was one piece of advice you would pass to them, other than what we've spoken about so far, what would that be?
All right. What I would say, it's not a marketing thing.
Yeah.
It's actually like more of a purpose thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And because a couple years back, I got really interested in transformation. For myself.
I noticed that on your website, actually.
Yeah.
You've got stuff about
and I just did a couple of them, and I did a couple of transformation workshops at my office. One was with someone from LifeSpring, which is a famous thing.
Yeah.
Then the next one was with the head of development for Landmark.
Yeah.
So each time I did it with someone else, because I wasn't going to do it alone, because I'm not really, that's not my expertise.
Yeah.
But there's this one thought that kept recurring in these transformation workshops, and one is like, what's your reason why, right? What is your reason for doing this? And your own personal wealth, as great as that is for you, it really isn't so great for anyone else, and it's not really a driver, and it also is problematic, because at the end of the day, if the whole reason why you're doing something is for yourself, then anytime you yourself don't feel like doing it, you're off the hook, right? So whereas when you have a cause bigger, so there's a reason why we do what we do, right? Each of us has reasons. We might not know what the real reason is, but there are reasons, and I'll give an example in a second.
Yeah.
But when your cause is bigger than you, right? It pulls you into a higher level of performance, right? So like, let's say like with Martin Luther King, right? Martin Luther King, his goal was to civil rights and help blacks all throughout the world, especially the United States, be on par with white people. So I'm sure there were days that Martin Luther King woke up and felt like not working. I'm sure there were days he had a headache, he wanted to procrastinate, but the cause he was bigger than his headache. The cause was big, right? If it was just about him, if he's got a headache, well then it's okay, right? But if it's such a big cause, it pulls you forward. So you look at the best people, the greatest best people, they had a cause that was bigger than themselves. Even people like Bill Gates and Steve Jobs, they were pursuing something that was bigger than themselves, and because of that, your heroes are people that were normal people that were pulled by a cause, right? Bigger than yourself. It is the fastest and easiest ways. It's creating a context about what you're all about that really drives you to a higher level of performance. So for me, after thinking about it in God knows how long, I figured out that for me, entrepreneurship is self-expression. It's the easiest way for you to kind of be who you want to be, right?
It's interesting, actually.
And have a voice in the world. And when I was younger, I didn't have that, right? I'm not going to go into horror stories of my youth, but there were horror stories in my youth.
Yeah.
And so for me, being able to give others the ability to be who they want to be and make an impact on the world is that cause that's bigger for me, right? So it doesn't matter like if I'm tired today, if also today I have the chance to make an impact on 150 or 200 people.
Yeah.
When you do that, like what I've just said, you're going to make all the money you need, right? It will happen. And if you can kind of figure out that cause, it's not just wordsmithing. It's about it doesn't really matter what it is. All it matters is that it matters to you, and it calls you into something bigger. It calls you to be a better person, a bigger person, a more passionate person.
I'm hearing that, Rich.
Yeah, so that's what I would say. I'd say identify the cause that's bigger than you that will pull you forward.
That's really powerful. I mean, there's a story actually. I was speaking to somebody recently, and Mother Teresa came up, and exactly just like what you just said. And they were saying, she did all this charity work, and look what happened. She passed away. I said, she passed away with millions in the bank.
Right.
Just like what you're saying, when the cause is that big, the money follows, and for me it's kind of like you're breaking something down, and even the heroism, it's like people look up to you because your purpose is bigger than yourself,
right?
Yeah. And to the point, I did some research,
but it's more than that, because it's like we look at great people and we think, oh, I can never be like that, but that's not true.
Yeah.
They were ordinary people too,
Yeah.
But the cause, what they were pursuing, compelled them to be better, right? So, if your cause is really small, then it doesn't compel you to be bigger, right? But if your cause is really big, it forces you. So heroes are ordinary people that just got pulled into it by a bigger context.
Awesome. I love that. I'm not going to add to it, guys. So, Rich, if people want to find out more about you, these books that you've written, I've got them saved on my laptop because I've opted in and I'm in your list. Honestly, guys, even just breaking down his stuff gives you ideas. But if people want to find out more about you, where can they go to get some more Rich?
Strategicprofits.com. So it's just STRATEGIC. Profits.com.
Awesome.
And the free reports are the best place to start. The first one I wrote was the Internet Business Manifesto.
Yeah.
The last one I wrote was called the Entrepreneurial Emergency, and there's 6 in between. And I think you'll get a great education, but you'll also see what the marketing I do, what it looks like and how it feels.
Awesome. So guys, I just want to say, Rich, it's been an absolute pleasure. And when you play this one back, make sure, if you've not already, you've got your notepad and your pen and lay down some of the things that Rich has shared, because I'm going to do the same thing. So Rich, I just want to say it's been an absolute pleasure hearing you on stage, inspiring me. And I'm at this stage in my life where I'm taking note of people like you who are doing this, who are living this. And like you say, we all have our flaws. And I've just come to realize there's a reason why I was attracted to you, and you proved it on stage and here. So thank you once again.
Thank you.
All right, take care, guys. That was awesome, Rich.
Cool. I
really enjoyed it. Cool. Thank you for giving me the time of day.
No problem. So you're located?
So I'm located in the UK. So